so much for taking a couple of minutes to watch this video. My name is Karen Cooper and I am the founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate. And I just want to take just a couple of minutes and talk to you about our upcoming 6th annual Empowering Women in Real Estate conference. Specifically about who this event is for, why that could be you, and what you can expect. First thing I want to talk to you about is worth it? That's a big question that we all have to ask, both from a financial perspective, but then also just from a time perspective. Taking the time away from your business, taking the time away from your daily life to come to a 2-day conference, there's an investment that's involved there. And especially if you've got children at home and kids might be back at school and there's a lot of things happening, and it can be really hard to justify coming to an event like this and taking time to come to an event like this. And I know that firsthand because I myself have had those thoughts and have had to make those decisions over and over again in my 24 years in real estate. And the thing that I will tell you is, I can't answer this for you from a financial perspective. We definitely work really hard every year to ensure that our event is really cost effective. I think if you compare the quality of our event with all the other events out there, I think you're going to find that ours is definitely really affordable. We do that on purpose. This is not something that we endeavor to make a lot of money on. We just hope to provide a really amazing experience for our attendees. And as long as we break even, then we're happy. So it's a very approachable event from that perspective, only for sure if it fits into the budget that you have. But let's talk about the time. Let's talk about the time investment specifically. There is something that happens when you specifically step outside of the day-to-day of your life and your business to take the time to really reflect. Think about, maybe you have this experience. When you go on vacation, especially if you're able to go on vacation and you really can step away from your business for a little bit. Once you have that little moment, y'all have that moment when you're on vacation where it takes a minute to settle in, but then typically you start to gain some clarity and you start to maybe think a little bit differently about some of the things in your lives. I can't tell you how many times I would come home from a vacation and I'm doing things differently. I'm operating differently because I had some clarity and I had some time to think. The only way that you can get that is by stepping outside of your business, stepping outside of your day-to-day life. When you are not in the midst of the pickups and the drop-offs and what's for dinner and feed the dogs and feed the cats and all the thousands of things that are coming at us all the time, it's just a different perspective that you can gain. And so from that point of view, it's worth it. I can assure you, anybody who knows me knows I very much am an introvert. I love to be home. And for me, an event lights me up. It fills my cup. It's so valuable. And I think that you're really going to find that. And so I really think that you're going to find that it's worth it from that perspective. The other thing that I will talk to you about is just how our event is different. There are a lot of real estate events that you can go to. There's so much training that you can find, whether it's training within your own brokerage or if you're on a team, probably your team offers a lot of training. Your association offers training. You can go on YouTube right now and find thousands of videos about training around real estate and content creation and maybe how to write a contract better and how to do a better open house and things like that. If that is what you're looking for, our event is not for you. Our focus always with our Empowering Women in Real Estate conference is to approach you as the whole woman, not just as the one-dimensional real estate agent. We really focus on bringing in speakers and addressing topics that are different, that are outside of just the typical, okay, how can I convert better on an open house? Yes, those things are important. You want to know those things, but also the better that you are at your own personal brand, the better you are at regulating your nervous system, the more clear you are on what you want from your business and your life. Those are the things that make lasting, long-term changes in your business and then just also in the quality of your life. And so those are the things that we focus on. The other thing I think that's really different about our conference is it's not a massive event, and we do that on purpose. I think we've all probably had those experiences where you go to an event and you're one of many hundreds or maybe even thousands of people and you feel like you're lost. You feel lost in this sea of people. And when that happens, I know for me especially, I withdraw a little bit, and it's hard for me to really absorb what I'm hearing. It's hard for me to stay focused because I'm like trying to find my space within this big group of people that I don't necessarily always feel like I fit in. And our conference is different. We specifically limit the size of the room because we want to have enough women there so that there is diversity of experience levels and thought processes and focuses and goals in their business, but also so I don't want to say few, but small enough group that you can actually get to know people, that between day one and day two, you're meeting friends that you're having lunch with, you're maybe connecting with someone that you're going to have dinner with that evening, or you're actually having conversations with the women at your table. And I think our event is really different in that regard. That is some of the feedback that we get over and over again from our attendees over the past 6 years. It's just the energy in the room, the vibe in the room, the quality of the women in the room. And so I think that's something that really sets us apart, that lets you just be yourself and not have to put up a wall or put on airs because you're in this group of hundreds or thousands of people. So let me walk you through what it looks like to be a part of our conference. So every day our doors open at 9 a.m. This is something that we have always done. We do coffee and conversation hour at the beginning of the event. So if you are somebody who really values that, come downstairs, come right into the venue right at 9 a.m. And for that first hour from 9 to 10, we're going to have coffee and beverages served so that you can take some time to connect, to meet the people in the room, to maybe see some friends that you haven't seen in a while. This is one of my favorite times. I love to just be there. And again, if I'm not a networker, I can't stand a happy hour, but I love this first hour of the event where we're all just chatting with each other and connecting, and there's always really good music. And so it's a great way to get your energy up and to get really comfortable in the space as we are getting ready to kick off the event. So that is every day, Tuesday and Wednesday, both days of the event, 9 a.m. the doors will open. We'll have registration. You can visit with our sponsors and their display tables. We're going to have a bookstore, and there's going to be authors there who've written books that benefit and directly impact people in the real estate industry, where you'll have a chance to meet the authors and maybe purchase their book if it's appropriate for you, and then have coffee, have tea, and connect with everyone. At 10 a.m. our event is going to kick off on both days. One of the things that we do differently at our event is we allow a full hour for every session at the conference. And that is on purpose. And it's not necessarily that every speaker is going to be speaking for the full hour, but I want two things to happen. And we've learned this from all of these years of doing this conference and from the feedback that we've gotten is, one, I want you to have time for Q&A. I want that after you've had a chance to hear from the speaker and to hear their presentation, I want everybody in the room to have a chance to ask their own questions. I've asked every speaker to allow for time for Q&A so that you're going to be able to hear what they have to offer. You're going to be able to hear their presentation. You're going to be taking notes, and then there's going to be time for us to actually do Q&A with every speaker. The other thing that I like to do is I like that full hour, because even if we don't use the full time, and we may not for every speaker for every session, it gives you space to actually think about and absorb and maybe talk to your table mates about what you heard. And I think that's really important. I've been to conferences where you are just like, you're herded from room to room and session to session and thing to thing. And it goes so fast that even if you loved and adored a speaker that you heard, or you loved a session and you took a ton of notes, you are flying right into the next session so fast that you don't have time to really think about and absorb what you heard. And then the next thing, it's time to go home, and you may never even go back and look at your notes again. And so I think having that time to really absorb, take it in, think about it, discuss it, whether with the people at your table or discuss it as a group in the room, I think is super important. So we always do that. Both days, Tuesday, Wednesday, we allow for a full hour for lunch. Our lunch is going to be in a separate room, so you're not going to be sitting in the whole space the whole time. So it gives you a chance to get up, stretch your legs. There's room if you need to go outside and maybe have a little break, or take a phone call, or maybe check in with your business, or check in at home. And then we're going to have a lovely meal together where you're going to have time to sit down, again, have conversation. It's a much more relaxed environment. It's not where you're going to be grabbing a box lunch and then going and finding a place. I remember going to an event one time and there was just no place to sit down, and we're balancing and teetering with our plate of goodies, and that's not what happens here. We've many times had people who have likened our event experience to a wedding. It's beautiful, there's flowers, we're all seated at round tables, and so you actually have time to sit down with an actual plate and actual silverware and actually enjoy your meal for lunch. And because it is a full hour, and because there are so many beautiful spaces at our conference venue this year, you're going to be able to, if you do need to go off and take a call, or maybe you're like me and when you have an event like this, maybe you need to go and take a few minutes just to center yourself into just like a lot of people, right? It's a lot of things, and there's going to be spaces for you to do that, and there's going to be time for you to do that. And then each day, so on Tuesday, our conference is going to end at 5 p.m. We are leaving. The last speaker for Tuesday, I think, is the one that you are going to need to absorb the most information from. And so we have intentionally put her last. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then on Wednesday, we're going to wrap up at 3 p.m. So if you are driving to the venue, parking is free. You're going to be able to get in and out. You're going to be able to get home before that Northern Virginia traffic on Wednesday. If you are flying to the venue, our hotel has free shuttle service that runs nonstop between our venue and Dulles Airport, so it's going to be really easy to get in and out. You could fly in on Monday evening, spend the evening Monday night, Tuesday conference, dinner there Tuesday night, and then Wednesday you could have your flight by 5 o'clock and you're going to be home shortly after dinner. So the way that all works out, I think, works out really nicely. One of the things too for our conference is we really like for you to have comfortable space. In fact, if you saw a post that I just did recently, we realized that there was a huge mistake that our venue had actually made, and we can't fit quite as many women in the room as we had thought. And we could fit more, we could cram more in. If we did 10 people at a round table, then we could fit a lot more, but we like to limit that to 8 people at a table whenever we can, because we want you to have room to spread out. We want you to have room to feel comfortable. We don't want you to feel cramped and crowded and claustrophobic. So you're going to have space. So I'm hoping that from what I'm describing, you can really see yourself there and you can really see yourself in the room. So let's talk about our speakers. Let's talk about who they are. Let's talk about why we have them there. And let's talk about what you can expect to walk away with. So Tuesday, 10 a.m., we're going to be kicking things off with Krista Dempscher. And her talk is You Are Your Brand. And there are 3 specific things that you are going to walk away with from her talk. And what I love about her talk, which I think is so important, is so many of us in the business, I think we see others and we see what they're doing, and then we think, oh, I have to be that. If I can't be that, if I can't do that, if I don't look like that, then I'm not going to be successful. But really what makes you the most successful is the more you that you are, the more authentic you are, the better you are and the better your business is. And that's really what Krista is going to be talking about. And so there's 3 things that she's going to have you walking away with. One is a personal brand framework. So you're going to be able to use her framework to identify how that fits in with your personal brand, who you are, not who she says you should be or who somebody else says you should be. The second thing is the 3 traps that are keeping you invisible. I think all of us in real estate have this feeling from time to time. We are in such a competitive industry, and there are times, especially on social media and the way the algorithms have changed this year, that you feel invisible. You're putting out great content, you're doing amazing things, you're incredible at the contract, and that you do an incredible job, but people aren't calling and people aren't engaging and feel invisible. And so she's going to talk about the 3 traps that keep you invisible and how to move past that. And then the third thing is she's going to help you to build and leave ready to use with your own personal origin story. Now, we're not talking about like your story from like you were born here and you grew up here and you did that. Might be part of your story depending on who you are. But what is your story as it pertains to real estate? What is your story in terms of why do people want to work with you in the first place? And so I think that's going to be a really powerful session. Our second session on Tuesday is with Marcella Oakley and Elia Alfonso of the Verity Accord. And these women are so incredible. They both have background in law enforcement. In fact, Ellie is a street cop. Marcella used to teach negotiation strategies for Chris Voss and the Black Swan Group. And what they're going to be talking about is the power of presence, leading with confidence and connection. And I think for all of us, especially women in the real estate industry, a lot of the experiences that we have, a lot of the situations that we are in, they are high stakes, they are high pressure. And so sometimes it can be hard to come to those situations with confidence. And so they're going to talk to you all about that. There's 3 things that specifically you're going to be able to walk away with from their talk. One of them is how to project authority and calm in high stakes negotiations. So think about when you are, whether it's negotiating, we are negotiating all the time, right? When you go on a listing appointment, we're basically negotiating with whether or not that seller is going to work with you. When you are negotiating a contract, if you are representing the buyer or the seller, you are negotiating with that other party. There are so many experiences throughout every transaction where we are in negotiations. And so how can you project calm in those situations? How can you project confidence in those situations? So they're going to talk to you about that. We're going to talk to you about, and I love this one so much, how to navigate deal killers without killing the relationships. So think about it. We've all been in these situations where you are in a brutal negotiation, maybe with the other agent on the other side of a transaction. And sometimes when you get into those really difficult situations, those really difficult transactions, what actually starts to happen is your relationship and how you are communicating with the other party starts to break down. And the minute that communication starts to break down, everything has now just gotten harder with your negotiation. And the chance of getting what you need for your clients to happen is so much harder. And so they're going to talk about how to address those situations without damaging those relationships, because ultimately damaging that relationship with the other agent or with your client is going to damage everything moving forward. And the third thing is why scripts fail and what to do when there is no playbook. Scripts are great. When I started out in real estate 24 years ago, I learned lots of scripts, and there are certain little words that I have learned and that I've used for all of these years. But ultimately, and I think we all know this, no two situations in real estate are the same. And there are going to be situations that you're going to have again and again where there is no playbook and there is no specific, let me say this, or this exact thing that I did for this other client is going to work. So what do you do when there is no playbook, and how do you respond, and how do you get the results that you need? So they're going to be talking about that. So I think that's going to be a super powerful session. The third session that we're going to have on Tuesday is featuring Michelle Jacobic, and it's called The Hidden Financial Stress of Successful Women. And I love that she calls it the hidden financial stress, because so many women, I think, can relate to this, especially right now. It feels like fighting for every commission. Sometimes you've got longer and longer periods between commissions. It just doesn't seem to go as far as it used to go. And so there is this hidden pressure. And even when you are super successful, often the more successful you are, the higher your expenses are. And so there is this dichotomy that takes place where on the outside you look super successful and you look like you have everything that you need and you look like the money is just rolling in. But the reality sometimes is it's not going as far as it used to go, or so much is going to taxes, or I'm having to put out so much to my brokerage, or I'm having to spend so much on marketing in order to keep my business going. And so there is that hidden financial pressure. And so Michelle is going to be talking about that. There's 3 things that you're going to be able to walk away with from her presentation. The first one is identifying those hidden financial stressors and putting in place a plan and a system to get past those and to work past those so that they're not weighing you down quite so much. The second one is you're going to learn her path to profits framework. And she wrote an incredible book called The Path to Profits. And in fact, she is gifting a copy of her book to every one of our conference attendees. And you're going to learn that framework, because the thing is, I think sometimes when you are feeling that financial pressure, the first thing that we all think is, well, I just need to have another sale. More revenue is going to solve that problem that I'm experiencing. But actually, that isn't always the case. Sometimes the more that you have coming in, the bigger your problems get. It's having a plan for your money. It's knowing that every dollar has a purpose. And so going through this framework with her, I think, is going to be incredibly powerful. And then the third thing is creating your own personal roadmap for wealth and freedom. And I love that she's using the word personal there, because it's all different. Depending on where you are in your business, depending on where you are in your life, depending on how old you are, depending on your goals for your future, depending on what you want right now, that is going to look different for every person, and helping you to create that framework is going to be super powerful. I think this is going to be a session that people are going to be talking about for a long time after. Fourth speaker on Tuesday is Afton Porter, and she's going to be talking about the iconic woman and how to use the power of style to become unforgettable. And I love this. We've never had a speaker like Afton before. She most specifically works with and helps and coaches luxury real estate agents with their presence and how they show up, because like it or not, how you show up, how you are perceived, that does impact whether or not you get business and whether or not you're going to win the business. And what I love about her talk is this is not about fashion. This is not about clothing. This is not about having to look a certain way or dress a certain way. It's dialing into who you are specifically. Go back to our very first topic of the day, talking about you are your brand. Who are you specifically? How do you want to present yourself? How do you want to project yourself so that you can find the right people, and so that when you're in like alignment of who you are and that is showing up, then that's when the people who are for you come to you, and that's when everything starts to flow much more easily. So 3 things that you're going to take away with from Afton's presentation is gaining clarity on how you want to be perceived and how you want to be remembered in your marketplace. And I think that's really critical, because if you are not seen, if you are not remembered in your marketplace, you are not going to have any business. And so who is that? How do you want to show up? Again, not showing up like someone else, but showing up as how you yourself specifically want to be. The second thing is understanding how luxury buyers and sellers subconsciously respond to color and style and image. So if you are an agent that wants to work with luxury clients, if you're already working with luxury clients, then I think this is going to be a really important takeaways for you on understanding how you're perceived and how these things impact what you do. And then our final speaker on Tuesday, I think, is probably my favorite, and that is Dr. Monique Thompson. And she is going to be speaking about your nervous system is closing deals to the science of stress, anxiety, and high performance. There was a post that I did many months ago, and it was around stress and anxiety, and it coming on the heels of a podcast episode that I had recorded about my own specific experience and struggles. And the response to that was off the charts. And so from that experience, I knew that I wanted to have a mental health practitioner to come and speak at the conference and to talk about this. And so Dr. Thompson is incredible. She's going to talk about a lot of different things. And this is why I specifically have her going last on Tuesday, because one, I wanted to have as much time as possible with her and to really absorb what she's saying. And then I want you to be able to walk away from that presentation, close out your day, and whether you're staying over and maybe you're going to go back to your hotel room and you're going to do some journaling or have some thought process. Maybe you're going to go to dinner with another attendee and you're going to talk about the experience, or maybe on your drive home, you're going to have a chance to process it. I want us all to really process what we're going to learn from her. And so it's a couple of different things. One is the science. And we talked about this a little bit in a podcast episode that I did with her. And I think you'll be a little bit surprised about the science and what it really says about stress and what it really says about anxiety and what we can learn about that. The second thing is changing your story that you tell yourself about stress and anxiety. We all have a story that we tell ourselves when stress presents itself, when our body starts to do that thing that starts to happen when we're feeling stressed and anxious. There's a story that we tell ourselves. And so understanding that and starting to change that. And then the third thing is practical tools that you can use immediately so that when you get into that state, and we've all been there, right? You're driving in the car and your text messages are binging, and then people are calling, and then you notice that your seller who is already upset because the offer came in low, and they're calling you, and like you feel that it's almost like a vibration that you feel in your body. And so she's going to talk about practical tools and tips that you can use immediately. You don't have to buy anything, you don't need anything expensive, you just need yourself, just a couple of minutes, and you can change your state. And so I'm really excited for her talk. So that is Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we have 3 sessions for you on Wednesday. So first, we're going to kick off the morning with Rosemary Lewis, and she's going to be talking about keeping promises to yourself. And I love this so much because we keep promises to everyone, to our clients, to our kids, to our partners, to our spouses, to our friends. But how often do we keep promises to yourself? I guarantee that there is probably something that just today you thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to meditate before I get started with my day. That was me this morning and I didn't do it. Or that is whatever it is. And we say we're going to do it for ourselves, and then we don't. We don't keep that promise. And so we're going to talk about that with her. And so there's 3 things. One is identifying the promises that you have been breaking and why they keep coming up again and again and again. Because I think if you look at that, you will notice that there are certain promises that you probably are breaking on a regular basis. The second one is a framework for creating lasting change. And then the third one is how to build self-trust and momentum, because that's really what this is all about. Think about it. If you call your client, you're going to call them every Monday with an update about their listing, and you don't call and you don't keep that promise, what's going to happen? They're going to lose trust in you. And the same thing happens when we do this to ourselves. When we say, I'm going to take a walk every morning, or I'm not going to have a glass of wine every night with my dinner, or I'm going to go to bed earlier and I'm not going to scroll my phone. Every time you don't keep that promise, you are eroding that trust. And so how to keep that trust and how to build momentum. And then our last speaker is going to be Sonny Graves, and she's going to be talking about the 6 keys of empowerment. And Sonny has had an incredible career working for some of the biggest builders in the nation, and now she coaches and trains salespeople. And so I know that you're really going to love what she talks about. She's going to talk about identifying and accessing your knowledge, your skills, your abilities around each one of your job tasks. And I think that that's something that we just don't take enough time to do. We think about it, you get your license and then you are just dumped out into the world of real estate to just figure it out. And so she's really going to help us to identify what are the areas that we need to work on our skills specifically. She's going to talk about how to gain clarity in all of that, how to know when to ask for help. Things that she's going to talk about is going to help you to become more productive, which I think is really incredible. Then we'll have our hour-long lunch session on Wednesday, and then I'm going to be wrapping up the session, or the conference rather, with the clarity workshop. And so the whole idea behind this is creating a life and a business that you love. I've been in business for 24 years, and I have evolved my business. I have shifted my business. I have changed my focus multiple times in my career. And it's not because I'm wishy-washy, and it's not because I'm just jumping from thing to thing. It's because my life changes and my life has evolved. My interests have evolved, and yours do too. And so it's okay to actually change things. It's okay to evolve things. But sometimes we don't take the time to actually get clear on what we want. And if you're not clear on what you want, then you're never going to know the right direction for your business. And I hear this from women all the time. They maybe get tired or things aren't working the way they used to. And so they would rather just walk away than try to figure out how to shift things. And so we're going to go through an interactive workshop where I'm going to be asking you a series of questions, and we're going to be doing a series of exercises that are going to help you to get really clear on what's working in your life, what's not working, what's working in your business, what's not working, what do you love, what do you don't love, what gives you energy, what drains your energy. And so you're going to be able to walk away from all of that feeling a lot more clear on what your next step should be, what you want to focus on, and where you should be going. And so that's our event, that's our conference. And so I really hope that, I believe that the women in your world, they determine the size of your world. And if you are spending all of your time with people that are thinking small, dreaming small, that are staying in a cycle of struggle in their life and in their business, then that's what you're going to have too. That's all that you're going to believe is possible. But when you are spending time in rooms like this with women that see bigger possibility, that are doing bigger things, then you are going to start to see that for your life, and you are going to start to see that for your business. You never know. When I think about my business and I think about all of the people that I've met in the relationship, so many have just opened doors for me that I never imagined. Referral partners, opportunities. You never know what conversation is going to come from this event, what one idea is going to come from this event, what one relationship you're going to make from this event that's going to maybe open up a whole new door and just change things for you for the better. So we would love to see you there. It is going to be on September 29th and 30th at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Dulles, Virginia, and tickets are available, so we want you to go and grab them. You can go to our website. It's empoweringwomeninrealestate.com and click on the conference, and I would love to see you there.